Good day everyone. In today's video, we are going to discover what is economics is, what is the role of it in our agricultural businesses, how we prepare ourselves in economic world, like how we budget our daily income for our daily needs, expenses, and many others. Before we proceed to our video on understanding what is economics is in our daily life, let's play first a video about economics work to have a better understanding and knowledge on what is economics means in our life, and at the end of this video, we apply this knowledge in our daily world.
Economics is the study of goods and services, how we produce, distribute, and consume. I plan to get through all this in like under 3 minutes. Lots to cover, hope there's enough room. First, the principles of scarcity, supply and demand. Prices rise when demand exceeds supply. When supply is higher than demand, then prices should fall. Equilibriums when neither is high. Opportunity cost is the benefit missed out on when a decision from choices is made. The circular flow model is wages paid to workers, and then sales is how producers are paid. Allocating scarce resources, there are 7 ways to determine who the winner should be. First come, first serve, auction, lottery, government decree, compete, majority rule, charity. Economic systems are how countries' economies work, and there are 4. The first, traditional. Also market and plan command economies exist. Mixed or hybrid type is additional. Speaking of 4, market systems or structures are the same, and perfect competition is the first. Then monopolistic competition, monopoly and oligopoly were collusion's worst. Now gross domestic product, or for short GDP, an indicator that will fall and climb. It's the total value of all goods and services produced in a certain period of time. Whereas consumer price index, or CPI, measures the change in prices over time that consumers pay for a basket of services and goods, though energy costs appear to be flat. One more thing, there's still time, is the business cycle stages of economic activity. Expansion, peak, recession, and then depression, crop recovery. Bye.
Agricultural economics and marketing. What is economics? Economics comes from the Greek word oikonomia, which means management of the household, and word oikos means house and nomos means law. The study of how man and society, with or without the use of money, employs scarce productive resources to produce various commodities over time and distribute them for consumption, now and the future, among various people and groups in the society. For economists, economics is the study of how human beings satisfy their material needs and wants from the resources available. It is the science of choice that explains the choices we make, how those choices change as we cope with scarcity. For businesses, it is the study of principles and policies which determine the volume of output of goods and services, level of employment and income, and manner in which the price system functions and income distributed. It is concerned with the efficient use of resources to produce products to satisfy human wants. The 3 elements of economic perspectives. We have scarcity, a condition in which resources available are insufficient to satisfy human wants. The basic concept related to scarcity. We have choice. Because of limited budget, consumers make choices among several goods and services available. Because of limited choices, business choose between a different combinations of inputs to produce a certain product. We have trade-off. It is choice between alternative uses for a given quantity of resources. Using resources for one purpose means that the same resources cannot be used for another purpose. In other words, We give up something to get something else. Example, you only have 10 pesos left in your pocket. You are hungry and thirsty. The price of available bread and soft drinks is both 10 each. If you buy the bread, you sacrifice not to buy the soft drinks. If you buy soft drinks, up to sacrifice not to buy bread. Opportunity cost. It is real economic cost of goods, service produced or measured by the value of the sacrifice alternative. It refers to the cost value and the highest value alternative we give up in referring or choosing alternatives. B. We have rational behavior. Economics is grounded on the assumption of rational self-interest, meaning to say individuals make rational decisions to achieve the greatest satisfaction or the maximum fulfillment of their goals. We have C. Marginalism. Economics choices are made based on the additional benefit of additional costs that will be incurred in making a particular decision. Therefore, in economics, possible consequences of the alternative choices are analyzed and weighed on the basis of added benefits and costs. Foundation of economics. We have A. We have limited resources. Limited resources are basically those resources that take a relatively long time to replenish. We have B. We have unlimited ones. Unlimited resources are renewable resources such as water, wind, and soil are the opposite of limited resources. Factors of production. Scarce resources. Factors of production are referred to as resources used in the production of goods and services. They are classified as a property, resources, and B. Human resources. We have A. Land. Refers to all natural resources, all free gifts of nature, which are usable in the productive process. It includes desert, fertile lands, forests, and mineral deposits, sunshine, and climate necessary for growth. The payment received by owners as remuneration for the land is called rent. B. Capital or investment goods. Refers to all manufactured aids to production. It includes the tools, equipment, machinery, factory, storage area, transport and distribution facilities, capital goods. Financial capital, on the other hand, is the money used to purchase the capital goods. The remuneration for the use of capital resources is called interest. We have labor. Refers to all man's physical and mental talents usable in the production. Remuneration for labor resource is called wage or salary. It is the physical efforts expended by the man in the production process. We have lastly, entrepreneurial ability or entrepreneurship. It is the resource used to combine the first three resources. This resource takes the initiative of innovating products and bear risks. Unlimited needs and wants. Wants are the desires of consumers to obtain the use of various goods and services which give pleasure or satisfaction. It is generally classified as the necessities and the luxuries. Needs are basic necessities for survival like food and water and shelter. Economic theories. As the systematic order of knowledge, economics is made up of theories. A theory is the set of related principles providing insight into the operation of some phenomena. A successful theory enables us to predict things that we have not yet seen. A theory is consists of, we have A set of definitions that clearly defines the variables to be used. We have B, a set of assumptions about the behavior of the variables, and C, prediction, often called hypotheses, that are reduced from the assumptions of the theory and can be tested against actual empirical observations. Methodology in analyzing economic problems. Economics is based upon facts concerning the activities of individuals and institutions in producing, exchanging, and consuming goods and services. The task of descriptive economics is the gathering of those economic facts that are relevant to a particular problem or specific segment of the economy. These facts are then studied, arranged, and generalized upon. The resulting generalization are called principles, theories, or models. The derivation of these principles is the task of economic theory. Characteristics of economic principles. We have A. There are generalizations, and as such as subject to exceptions. We have B. They are models of the reality and are therefore abstract. We have C. May take the form of verbal statements, numerical tables, mathematical equations, or graphs. And lastly, we have letter D. Valuable or predictive devices serve as basis for the formulation of economic policy designed to solve the problems in controlling undesirable events. Macroeconomics versus microeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole or with the basic subdivisions or aggregates such as government, household, and businesses sector. It seeks to explain average prices, total output, GNP or gross national product, GDP or gross domestic product, total employment, total income, effects of taxes, government spending, and effects of money and interest rates and government budget deficit. Example of microeconomics. We have A. The GDP grows by 5%. We have B. The unemployment rate reaches as high as 10%. Microeconomics is a study of activity in the individual market. It studies the decision of individual people and businesses and the interaction of those decisions to the market. It seeks to explain the prices of individual goods and services. For example, BMWI increases the prices of their hog concentrates. We have B. Doveco laid off all 50% of their workers. Agricultural economics. Agricultural economics is the applied science primarily concerned with the solution of economic problems in agriculture. It is also concerned with the identification, description, and classification of economic problems in agriculture in order to solve them, such as problems in financing, production, and marketing. Positive versus normative economics. Positive economics deals with what the economy is actually like. It focuses on facts and avoids value judgments. It tries to establish scientific statements about economic behavior. It is concerned with what is described in the situation as it is example. The economy grows at 2.6 per year percent. Our planet is warming because of increased carbon dioxide built up in the air. We have C. The prices of corn is 10 pesos per kilo. Normative economics deals with value judgment about what the economy should be like or what the particular policy action should be like or should be recommended. It is often called policy economics. It embodies subjective feelings about what ought to be. For example, the economy should grow faster. The prices ought to be high. It has to hot today. Economic goals. Common economic goals. We have a number of economic goals or values which are widely, though not universally accepted in our society include full employment, price stability, economic freedom, economic security, equitable distribution of income, economic efficiency, balance of trade, employment and efficiency, full employment, the use of all available resources. No worker should be involuntarily out of work. For production, this means that all employed resources should be used so that they provide the maximum possible satisfaction of our material wants. Full production implies two types of efficiency. We have productive efficiency, production of any particular mix of goods and services in less productive way. An economy achieves production efficiency if it not produce more of one good without producing less of another good, that is when it is the production possibilities frontier or PPF. We have B. Allocative efficiency, production of the particular mix of goods and services wanted by the society. Production possibilities curve, production possibilities frontier curve. This is the graphical representation of maximum outputs that can be produced with available inputs. It shows that varying amounts of two types of outputs that can be produced in relation to that be produced by the fixed amount of resources. It also shows the trade-off the society faces. It shapes in concave because of the principle of increasing opportunity cost. It is the graphical representation of the opportunity cost concept. Economic ideologies of nations. Basic economic problems. The fundamental economic problems facing all societies is that of scarcity. It is the condition resulted society not having enough resources to produce all of things people would like to have. Because we live in the world with scarce resources, we have to make choices. With this, the fundamental economic questions are formulated. We have A. What to produce. The society does not have anything it people wants, so it must decide what to produce. We have B. How to produce. In developed countries, machineries known as high technologies are employed to do a certain task. In underdeveloped countries like the Philippines, labor technology is generally used. The choice of ways to produce the products depends upon which way provides the lesser cost and the larger benefit, and of course, the available resources. And we have lastly letter C for whom to produce. The products produced should be allocated to someone. A choice must be made as to who will receive the existing supply. Economic system. Due to the scarcity problem, all nations and societies must allocate their resources in order to meet their needs. With this, a nation must adopt an economic system. An economic system is the way in which the country manages the production and distribution of goods and services. It is the sum total of institutions and models of customs which have become permanent and become a part of the activities of the country. There are three things wherein the economies of the world differ, and these are: we have A. Level of private or public ownership. We have B. Focus of planning. We have C. Extent of public or private decision making. We have traditional or subsistence economy. This is the earliest form of economic system. All economic activities in this system are accomplished outside the market. Each family takes care of its own economic needs. No money, banking, activities, and trade. Only barter system is practiced as a form of exchange or trade. Tradition decides what the people do for a living and how their work will be performed. Capitalism or market economy, free enterprise, laissez-faire. In this system, the means of production is owned and controlled by private individuals or groups. Government plays only a relatively small role, and it is the market that determines how much resources are allocated. Nations' economic decisions are the result of individual decisions of buyers and sellers in the marketplace. The people decisions act as votes, and they accomplish this by buying a particular product. Consumers play a key role in determining what to produce. Example are Japan and USA. This system used technology and capital goods extensively, employed specialization, and used money as medium of exchange. For this economic system to work, the following factors should be considered. We have A. Private property. This refers to exclusive right of a person to buy, keep, use of, sell, or give away things of value. We have B. Freedom of enterprise. This means that private businesses are free to obtain economic resources. We have C. Freedom of choice. This means that owners can employ or dispose of their property and money as they see fit. It also means that workers are free to enter any lines of work of which they are qualified. Letter D. Self-interest. Each economic unit attempts to get what is best for itself. We have letter E. Competition. F. Markets and prices. Market serves as coordinating mechanism, and prices serve as a guidepost on which resources owners, entrepreneurs, and consumers make and revise their free choices as they pursue self-interest. And lastly, letter G. Limited government. Command economy communism. In this system, the economic decisions are made by the government. No person may independently decide to open or run a business. This system is also known as socialism, authoritarian, or centralized economy. The factors of production are owned by the government. Example is China. Fascism. Fascism is the economic system often associated with Hitler's Germany, Mussolini's Italy, and the militaristic government of Japan, all before the end of the Second World War. Today, there are still fascistic governments. This economic system is more easily associated with political regimes in which power is centered largely on a strong one-man dictatorship, or in any case of one-party dictatorship. Big industries support the objectives of the state. Under the economic system, the function of the market mechanism is inoperative since one of a few companies exert great monopoly power. There is delegate upon the state in extreme fascistic state, gearing especially for a war in Nazi Germany where the choice of what types of goods would be produced and what types freedom enforced by the leadership and choices open to private enterprise were indeed limited. Thus fascism is more easily identified as a political system with elements of a strong dictatorship enjoyed by a single man in a group, say a military junta. Today, when socialism is mentioned, it is often to refer to the mixed economic system that have emerged in Western Europe. The term mix refers to the mixture of regulated capitalism and the socialistic version of communism in the sense of public ownership of the means of production. Demand and supply. What is demand? Demand is defined as the schedule in which shows the various demands of product which consumers are willing and able to purchase at a specific price in a set of possible prices during some specified period of time. Demand curve is the illustration of the relationship between various quantities demanded of a particular commodity and at different prices. Other factors, ceteris paribus, held constant, it is sloping downwards, showing the inverse relationship of prices and quantity demanded. B. Change in number of buyers' population. When population increase, the demand curve will shift to the right. However, when calamities such as earthquakes and tsunamis come and kill millions, demand curve might be shifted to the left. C. Change in income. An increase of income shifts a demand curve of normal goods to the right, while to the left for the inferior goods. A decrease of income shifts and demand curve and normal goods to the left, while to the right for inferior goods. Normal goods are those goods that demand vary directly with income. Inferior goods are those goods that demand and inversely related with income. Letter D. Change in the price of related goods. If the price of the substitute goods increases, demand curve of the product will shift to the right. If the price of a complement good increases, demand curve of the product will shift to the left. Substitutes good. The prices of one good is directly related with the demand for the other good. Complementary goods. The price of the one good is inversely related with the demand for the another good. Independent goods. The price of one goods does not affect the demand for the other good. And lastly, expected future prices. Expectation of higher future prices increases the demand today. Demand curve shift to the right. Expectation of lower future prices decreases the demand today. Demand curve shift to the left. Let's go to supply. So what is supply? Supply is defined as the schedule which shows the various demands of a product which producers are willing and able to produce and make available for sale in the market of each specific price in a set of possible prices during some specified period of time. Supply curve is the illustration of the relationship between various quantities supplied of a particular commodity and at different prices. Other factors, ceteris paribus, held constant, it is sloping upward, showing the direct relationship of prices and the quantity demanded. We have market supply. Is the sum of all individual producers' firm supply in the market. We have quantity supply of a good or services is amount of a good or service that producers plan to sell during a specific period of time. And we have lastly, law of supply. Law of supply states that a price falls, the corresponding quantity supplied decreases, or alternatively, as a price increases, the corresponding of quantity supplied increases. Other things, ceteris paribus. In other words, there is a direct relationship between prices and quantity supplied. Determinants of supply factors that shape the supply curve. We have letter A. Change in resource process production cost. When the cost of production resources increases, suppliers' purchasing value power decrease. Hence, with limited budget, supplier output will be decreased, shifting the supply curve to the left. We have letter B, change in technology. The development of new technologies that aids the production increases the supply, thereby shifting the supply curve to the right. We have letter C, changes in taxes and subsidies. A decrease in taxes on wheat increases the supply of wheat in the country, shifting supply curve to the right. We have letter D, change in prices of other goods. An increase of price of corn reduces the supply of rice, the other crops which serves as substitute of corn in a certain field. Letter E, prices expectations. If the price of a good is expected to rise, the return from selling the goods is higher in the future than in today. Therefore, the quantity supplied today decreases. And lastly, letter F, change in suppliers' number. An increase in the number of banana Q vendors increases the supply of banana Q. Equilibrium. The market equilibrium price quantity is determined by the interaction of supply and demand. Market equilibrium quantity refers to the quantity where quantity supplied and quantity demanded are equal. Market equilibrium price refers to the price where quantity supplied and quantity demanded are equal. It is the price that clears the market. Price elasticity of demand meaning the ratio of the percentage change in the quantity demanded of the product that consumers will buy in response to the percentage change in the price along a given demand curve. It measures the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a good to change its price. All other factors ceteris paribus. Determinants of price elasticity of demand. We have letter A, substitutability. The more substitute the product is, the more elastic the price elasticity of demand. The closer the substitutes, the more elastic. Letter B, the proportion of income is spent on the goods service. The larger the product lies in one's total budget, for example, car, the more elastic its price elasticity of demand. Letter C, necessity. Luxury products are more elastic than basic necessities. And lastly, we have letter D, adjustment time. The longer the time elapsed since the price change, the more elastic is the demand. Prices elasticity of supply meaning the ratio of the percentage change in quantity supplied of the product that producers are willing to sell in response to the percentage change in price along a given supply curve. Determinants of price elasticity of supply. We have A, substitutability of resource. The more goods that can be produced from the particular resource, the greater the elasticity. However, some goods and services can be produced only by using unique or rare production resources. The elasticity of supply for these goods is inelastic or zero. We have B, adjustment time frame for the supply decision. The longer the time period under consideration, the more elastic. For immediate market period of most of agricultural products, supply is perfectly inelastic, zero elasticity because producers cannot respond quickly. Income elasticity of demand or EM. Income elasticity of demand is the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded of a product that consumers will buy or in response in percentage change in income. Cross price elasticity or XY. Cross price elasticity is the ratio of percentage change in quantity demanded of a product that consumers will buy in response to a percentage change in other goods. Microeconomics, consumer theory and choices. There are two approaches in the study of consumer choice and demand, utility approach and cardinal approach. Utility cardinal approach. Under this approach, utility is measured in terms of utils and is additive. Utility refers to the ability of a good to satisfy a human want. The utility of a good or service in the satisfaction of pleasure one gets from consuming it. Total utility refers to the entire amount of satisfaction a consumer receives from the consuming a good at various rates. The more of an item a consumer consumes per unit of type, the greater will be the total utility or the satisfaction received from each up to the certain point, saturation point. Marginal utility. is the extra satisfaction a consumer realizes from an additional unit of a product or the change in total utility as the quantity of the good is exchanged. Law of diminishing marginal utility states that one consumes more of a given commodity. Others held constant, the marginal utility tend to decline. The utility maximizing rule budget allocation rule equimarginal principle. This rule seeks to determine what combination of goods and services a consumer can obtain with his budget will give him maximum utility or satisfaction. To maximize satisfaction, and consumer should allocate his or her money income so that the last peso spent on each product yields the same amount of extra marginal utility. Indifference curve analysis ordinal approach. An indifference map is a set of indifference curve. Each curve in the indifference curve reflects a different level of the utility. Curves farther from the origin indicates higher levels of total utility. Thus, in a complete represent products x and y represented by the point in the farthest indifference curve from the origin has greater total utility than any combination of A and B represented by the point of an indifference curve nearer to the origin. A budget line is a schedule of a curve that shows the various combination of two products consumer can purchase with a specific money income. There are two other characteristics of the budget line. We have A. Income changes. The location of the budget line varies with money income. An increase in money income shifts the budget line to the right. A decrease in money income shifts to the left. We have letter B. Price changes. A change in product prices also shift in the budget line. A decline in the prices of the other products, the equivalent of a real income increase shift the curve to the right. Conversely, an increase in the prices of A and B shifts the curve to the left. The consumer equilibrium position. The consumer equilibrium position is the point where the budget line and the tangent to the indifference curve. The utility maximizing combination will be the one lying on the highest attainable indifference curve. At the point of tangency, the slope of the highest attainable indifference curve equals to the slope of the budget line. Because the slope of indifference curve reflects the MRS and the slope of the budget line is Px equal to Py and optimal the equilibrium position in the point where MRx xy is equal to negative Px. Substitution effect is the change in quantity demand of a good X resulting from the price change when the level of satisfaction is held constant. Because a lower price increases the relative attractiveness of the product, the consumer buys more of it. Income effect is the change in quantity demanded of a good X due entirely or a change in real income or prices being held constant. A decline in the price of a good decreases the consumer's real income. Production concept. Production is the process of creation of goods and services to satisfy human wants. It is the process or the transformation of two or more inputs in one or more products or outputs. Inputs resources are the means or the ingredients used to produce a product, land, labor, fertilizer, etc. Production function shows the maximum quantity of the commodity that can be produced per unit of time for each of a set, while alternative inputs when the best production techniques available are used. An input is defined as anything that a firm uses in its production process. All inputs can be divided into two categories. We have fixed inputs and variable inputs. A fixed input is an input whose quantity cannot be changed during the period of time under consideration. The firm plants and equipment are examples of fixed inputs. A variable input is an input whose quantity can be changed during the relevant period. The number of workers hired and the amount of raw materials used in the production process are examples of this category. The relationship of productivity and cost curve. Law of diminishing returns. Law of diminishing returns states that if equal increments of input are added, the quantities of other inputs held constant and resulting increments of product will decrease beyond some point. That is, the marginal product of the input will diminish. Production with two variable input long run. An isochron Analog with indifference curve shows the different combination of two inputs, say labor L and capital K, with which a firm can produce a specific quantity of output. The marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital refers to the amount of K that this firm can give up by increasing the number of L used by one unit and still remain on the same isoquant. MRTSIK diminishes. This is equal to MPL MPK. It is the analog with MRS of consumer theory. An isocost analog with the budget line shows all different combination of two inputs, say L and K, that a firm can purchase given the total outlay of the firm and the factor prices. The slope of an isocost is given by PL-PK, where PL refers to the price of labor and PK to the price of capital. Producer equilibrium. A producer is in equilibrium when the maximizes output for this given total outlay. That is when this isoquant is tangent to the isocost. At the point of tangency, the slope of an isoquant is equal to the slope of an isocost. That is equilibrium MRTS and PL-PK. Since MRTSLK is equal to MPL-MPK, we can write MPL divided by MPK is equal to PL divided PK, or PL divided PL is equal to MPK divided PK. This means that in equilibrium, the MPL of the last peso is spent on the labor is the same as MPK at the last peso is spent on capital. Expansion path. If the firm changes in total outlay while the prices of inputs L and K held constant, the firm isocost shift parallel to itself up if total outlay increase and down in total outlay and increase. These different isocosts will be tangent to different isoquant, this defining different equilibrium points for the producer. By joining this point, expansion path can be drawn. Production possibilities for the economy. When two resources L and K are used to produce two products X and Y, some distributions of the resources between two uses will be more efficient than others. An efficient distribution is a Pareto optimal distribution from which an increase in output of one good takes place in only the output of the other is decreased. Cost of production. Explicit costs refer to the actual expenditures of the firm to purchase on hire and the inputs it needs. Explicit costs refer to the actual expenditures of firm to purchase on hire inputs it needs. The cost of the self-owned, self-employed resources. Total fixed cost TFC refer to the total obligation incurred by the firm per unit of time for all the fixed inputs. Total variable cost TVC refer to the total obligation incurred by the firm per unit of time for all the variable inputs it uses. Opportunity cost are costs of missed opportunities of sacrificed alternatives. The geometry of per unit cost curve. Short-run per unit cost curves can be derived from the corresponding short-run cost curve. The AFC for any level of output is given by the slope of line from the origin to the corresponding point of the TFC curve. ABC is given by the slope of the line from the origin to the various points of the TFC curve. ABC is given by the slope of a line from the origin to the various points on the TFC curve. Similarly, AC is given by the slope of the line from the origin to the various points on the TC curve. The MC for any level of output is given by the slope of either the TC curve and TVC curve at the output level. Long run cost curve. The long run average cost or LAC curve shows the minimum per unit cost of producing each level of output when any desired scale of land can be built. LAC is given by the curve tangent to the all of the short land average. SAC curves representing all of the alternative land sizes that a firm could build in the long run. The LAC curve is the development of the SAC curve, while the SAC declines at first but eventually rises because of the operation of the law of diminishing marginal returns resulting from the existence of the mixed input in the short run and the shape of the lack curve in determining by the economies and this economies of scale since there are no fixed inputs in the long run. That is, output expands from the very low levels, increasing returns to the scales cause the lack curve to decline initially, but as output becomes larger and larger, these economies of scale may become equivalent, causing the lack curve to start rising. Constant returns to scale. Production situation where if all factors of production are increased, output will also increase with the same degree, increasing returns to scale economies of scale. Example, specialization of labor technology, 10% increase in input resulting to the 20% increase of output. Decreasing returns to scale. Example, managerial complexities, 20% increase in input result to 10 output or less than 20% output. Social costs. Costs are also classified into private and social costs. Private costs are the explicit and implicit opportunity costs incurred by individuals and firms in the process of producing goods and services. Social costs are the costs incurred by society as a whole. Social costs are higher than private costs of production. Private costs can be made equal to social costs by public regulation requiring the firm to install anti-population equipment in the case of firm dumping untreated waste into the air, which exposes costs of society in the form of higher. According to the CAP, social cost is that share of the total cost of production that is not borne by producer but is shifted to third parties, future generation of society at large. Under pure competition total approach, perfect pure competition is characterized by a large number of sellers and buyers of commodity, each too small to affect the prices of commodity. B. Outputs of all firms in the market are homogeneous. Letter C. Perfect mobility of resources. Letter D. Consumers, resource owners, and firms in the market have perfect knowledge of present and future prices and costs. And lastly, letter E. No restrictions in the entry in the industry. In pure competition markets such as most in agricultural products, price is given by the intersection of market, supply, and market demand curve. Producers, sellers are generally price takers. Non-individual sellers, demand is perfectly inelastic. It is because all firms acting independently but stimulously can increase price by reducing output. However, individual firm cannot do that, so the demand curve of individual seller is perfectly elastic to price. With this, in order to have profit, production should be done only when total revenue TR exceeds the total cost or TC. If the market price of the output is low or unprofitable, such as the TC is greater than TR resulting to the losses, the farm business may still continue to produce because it cannot abandon the plants and animals currently growing. The sale it and whatever price it could be sold. The direction now is how to minimize losses. The farm will still produce as long as the losses are lower than the TFC. The minimized loss of business firm should reduce the quantity of output where the difference between the losses of TFC is lowest or narrowest. MR is equal to MC rule. If MR is greater than MC, then the extra revenue of selling one more unit exceeds the extra cost incurred in producing it. Therefore, the economic profit will increase as output increases. If MR decreases or less than MC, then the extra revenue of selling one more unit is less than the extra cost incurred in producing it. Therefore, the economic profit will decrease as output increases. However, economic profit increases if output decreases. If MR is equal to MC, economic profit is minimized. The characteristics of MR is equal to MC rule. A. Applies only if producing is preferable than shutting down. B. Accurate guide to profit maximization for all terms in any market. C. When applied to pure competition, the rule can be written as P is equal to MR. And lastly, letter D can also be applied to cost minimization provided that market price exceeds minimum average variable cost. Principle of input substitution and enterprise combination. Principle of substitution states that where two inputs are substitutes to each other, the firm can minimize cost by replacing a higher price input with a lower price input. Two approaches in determining the less cost combination. We have A. Total cost approach. All combinations of input A and B must be computed for the total cost. The combination with the lowest cost would be the optimum combination. In order to solve this, we have total cost for the combination is equal to open parenthesis PA times QA close parenthesis plus open parenthesis PB times QB close parenthesis. Letter B. Marginal approaches margin. Estimate the ratio at which inputs substitute for each other by moving from the first inputs combination to the second, to the third, and straightforward up to the last combination. The ratio is referred to as marginal rate and technical substitution of MRTS. To solve it, we have this formula. MRTS XY is equal to units of Y if replace units of X added. Under pure monopoly refers to the form of market organization in which there is a simple firm producing a commodity for which there are no close substitutes. The firm is the industry and faces negatively sloped demand curve, the commodity. The demand curve of the monopolist equals to the market demand curve. As a result, if the monopolist wants to sell more of the commodity, he must lower his price. For monopolist, M is less than P and his MR curve lies below his D curve. Under oligopoly is a market organization in which there are a few sellers of commodity so that the action of each seller affects the other seller. The following are the 6 different models of oligopoly. We have number 1, A. The Carnot model. This model assumes that there are two firms selling under conditions of zero cost of production. The profit minimizing level of sales of each firm occurs at the midpoint of its negatively sloped straight line demand curve where E is equal to 1 and TR is maximum. The basic behavioral assumption made by the Carnot is that each firm attempting to maximize its price or TR assumes that the other firms will hold its output constant. Faced with this assumption, there will be the number of converging moves and counter moves by the total amount of the products that would be sold in the market that had been perfectly competitive. B. Weir-Burton model. Assume that there are only two firms. Assume further the buyers will patronize only a firm that is changing the lower price. If firm A would a price lower than firm B, then the firm A will have the entire market and firm B will be having 0 customers. B then would lower its price. This results to both firms pricing their products equal to MC and AC, which subsequently result to both firms earning 0 profits and offer competitive output in the industry. And letter C, the Chamberlain model. This model starts with the same basic assumption with Carnot. However, Chamberlain further assumes that the duopolists recognize their interdependence. The result is that without any formal agreement or collusion, the duopolist is set in identical prices till identical quantities and maximizes their joint profits. Letter D. The Kink demand curve model. The Kink-Sweezy model tries to explain the price rigidity often observed in oligopoly markets. Sweezy postulates that an oligopolist increases its price, others in the industry will not raise theirs, so he would lose most his customers. On the other hand, an oligopolist cannot increase his share of the market by lowering his price since the other oligopolists in the industry will match and price cut. Thus, there is a strong compulsion for the oligopolist not to change the prevailing price, but further to compete on the basis of quality, product design, advertisement, and service. Letter E. The centralized cartel model. A cartel is a formal organization of producers with an industry that determines policies for all firms in the cartel with a view of increasing total profits for the cartel. A centralized cartel determines all decisions for all members firms. These forms of perfect collusion leads to monopoly solution. Letter F. Price leadership model. Price leadership is the form of imperfect collusion in which the firms in an oligopolistic industry, tacitly without formal arrangement, decide to set the same price as the price leader for the industry. The price leader may be the low-cost firm or more likely, the dominant leader for the industry. The dominant firm sets the industry price, allows the other firm in the industry to sell all they want at that price, and then the dominant firm comes to fill the market. Under monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition refers to the market organization in which there are many firms selling closely related but not identically commodities. Because of this product differentiation, the seller has some degree of control over the price he changes, and thus faces negatively sloped demand curve. However, the existence of the many close substitutes severely limits his monopoly. Power and result is the highly elastic demand curve. If a single firm is monopolistically competitive and thus they lower its price, it will move down and along its highly elastic demand curve, increase its sales substantially. However, if all firms in the industry lower their prices simultaneously, the sales of each firm will increase by less.